The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by patreon.com/JURY. You can not only get this show, but also our Politics headline editions. Those come out every Monday and Friday. 3 days of political news for you if you are on our Patreon at the $3 a week level. Thank you to everybody that has done it. It has really meant a huge difference in this show and my life personally, as well as everybody who goes to actionnewsgame.com. We are in the back half officially of this campaign. We are very excited about it. We have cracked $40,000, and you guys can be a part of it. Just head on over there right now, actionnewsgame.com. My new social card game. Check it out. Check it out now, because if you don't, well, you're going to turn to ash, and everyone around you will suffer for it. Just kidding. It's a fun game. Go ahead and pick it up. actionnewsgame.com. But enough of talking about how we do the show. What do you say? We just do the damn thing! Welcome back. A lot of people wonder, and this is a big day on Capitol Hill, that maybe sometimes we shouldn't be first to point the finger at the GOP, as I have forgotten all of my musical cues, so everybody can make mistakes, and sometimes you just need to lean into the mistake and decide to make it into a bit. We'll be right back as we begin the show. Oh, welcome, everybody, to the Politics show. I forgot my iPad, so we're going to have to make do.
I tell you what, that was smooth. I don't think anyone noticed. I think they double-checked their AM dial for a second there, but outside of that, I thought it was flawless execution.
Is his show on podcast?
No.
This is the Politics show. My name is Justin Robert Young. This is Brian Brushwood. We are going to be doing the show here today. Thank you very much for joining me, Brian.
Hey, man, good to be here. I got to feel like when you're the king of old media, you stay fairly entrenched in old media, right? I mean,
well, but it wouldn't shock me if there was like some mega ditto head level or something.
That's the Rush 24/7 membership that you get. Stream all of my episodes. Give it away for free. What are you, a communist liberal?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there's probably some pay level where you can get the show in podcast form, right?
Yes. I bet there is a RSS feed on the inside, but I know that my dad.
Here's all I'm saying.
All right. For the record, this is the most
Call your dad. Call your dad.
This is the most punk rock way you could possibly listen to Rush Limbaugh, and I will neither confirm nor deny legally whether or not this was something I set up for my dad. But my dad was in south of Houston, in Brazoria, Texas. He couldn't get the signal of the AM station good enough.
Yeah.
So we set him up with a Rush 24/7 account, but he wanted to be able to listen to it on his radios. So we set up a 1-watt transmitter pirate radio station. Actually, we ended up upgrading it to a 5-watt, which is 50 times more than the legal limit.
Yeah. So he could
listen on his AM radio to Rush Limbaugh.
To the streamed audio.
Correct, at all times. And so we had to commit multiple federal offenses.
And I salute you for it, great patriots. To whiff my tea is the thing for me. We'll be right back.
Is that what he said?
I don't know. We got a lot to talk about that is not Rush Limbaugh related. And part of it is the staggering, impotent failure of the Republican Party. 7 years, Brian, the Republicans have been out here in these streets saying what? What has been the clarion call of the Republican?
Repeal and replace.
Oh, bummer care.
Yeah.
Bangler.
Bangler's Bumbler's fingers is in the hot milk of your health care mixed with crow's feathers.
And we now, and this is a story that is actually evolving a lot. If you are listening to this on podcast, this has been evolving kind of even since I started doing the doc earlier this morning. Initially, Mitch McConnell comes out and says, hey, look, giving up the ghost, dog. I don't got the votes. So remember that whole root and branch Obamacare thing? Well, I hope you don't as I throw this ninja bomb and then moonwalk on out of here.
So where are we at? I don't follow this very closely. I actually don't know the details of the plan as it was laid out by the Republican versions of it. But I do know that that it was soft. Everything was all
right. So here's effectively what goes down.
Yeah.
For 7 years, the Republicans are like, Obamacare. They fought it really, really hard.
Right.
Obama got it through by the skin of his teeth.
Right.
And this has been the clarion call, the rallying cry for the Republican Party.
Right.
So, shock and amazement to the Republicans. Trump's the president. Oh, shit, we have the president.
Right.
Oh, Jesus, that means we actually have to do something.
Go through with this.
on this Obamacare thing. We thought it was just going to be a way to win regional elections forever.
Okay, that is one of the weirdest things about politics to me is how much of your time that you have to spend tactically shouting about things you honestly don't care about. This is why I'll never be in politics. It's so insane to me.
Yeah. And Night Attack. Probably another reason why
you know what? A 10-year track record of talking to you is enough to keep me from public office of any variety forever. Actually, I take that back. Apparently anything goes.
Oh yeah, no, anything goes. So
he's my president too.
He certainly is. God damn it. Here's what happened. So all of a sudden they realize they have all three branches, so they can push through stuff, and this time the president's going to sign it. Paul Ryan just literally gets a bill through the House in the same way that you would pack for the airport if you realized your flight was in 30 minutes.
Right.
Like, just whatever. As long as it's fitting in the thing, I gotta go.
Right.
He's just trying to throw it to the Senate. So he just puts this bill that nobody likes, that's hilariously unpopular.
And what is it that nobody likes about it? Is it that it's just basically a broken version of what we got? Because, I mean, I should be the target demographic for people who are into the idea of not continuing with the ACA as it's written, because yes. We went from a family that paid about $480 a month to now we pay $1,600 a month for the same coverage. Yes. Exact same coverage, right?
Yeah. Premiums are rising for the people that can afford for them to rise, quote unquote, is what the argument by that law is.
By the way, thank you for all your Patreons.
Indeed. They're going right to bummers, bungler's fingers.
But what about the emails?
So here's the deal. Oh, we're going to get to emails. Don't worry. So all of a sudden, Paul Ryan throws this to the Senate, and the Senate is now in the hands of Mitch McConnell's leadership. Mitch McConnell is supposed to be this master legislative force. The idea is, okay, let's just try to appeal to our base. We don't want to try to do anything that requires the Democrats, but that means that you can't afford to lose both the moderate Republicans, like I think Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, or the more conservative Republicans in the Senate, like Rand Paul, Ted Cruz, Ron Johnson, right? And he was never able to bridge the gap. And the closer that they got to trying to vote on it, the more that they were just making compromises on either end that further pissed off either end.
Right.
And it just didn't happen. The reason why, here's what was in this bill. Effectively, it was some stuff that conservative orthodoxy has demanded for a while, like just slashing of Medicaid and stuff like that. A lot of entitlements that are just never going to go away.
Right.
You are only going to get certain times when the moon waxes and wanes a certain way, and you have that kind of conservative control, can you cut entitlements that otherwise are going to be political poison pills. Right. But also, there's this tricky question of exactly what do you do with the ACA, specifically things about the ACA that are very, very popular, including being able to keep people on your insurance until they're 25 and like the pre-existing conditions thing.
Right.
this to me was kind of always doomed to fail because it is Republicans doing what they are always unpopular doing, taking things away.
Right. Austerity.
Republicans are at their best. Like, there's a reason why Ronald Reagan, for all the clowning that people do about like the fawning over Ronald Reagan was always focused on the thing you get.
Right.
Look what you get.
In an alternate universe. Imagine, and forgive me, I too am not a fan of the lionization of Ronald Reagan. Let's not pretend he was a conservative Jesus 3.0. But if Reagan was doing what Trump attempted to do today, my guess is he would have focused on one universally beloved positive aspect that he's selling. Like, for example, he could very simply say, under ACA, if you are 25 and without disease, you are robbed of the choice of whether or not to buy insurance. All I'm selling is choice. That's all we're saying. You deserve a choice. Don't you deserve to be able to choose?
It's called the Choice Act.
Yes, exactly.
In fact, you could say us, the Republicans, are pro-choice.
Exactly. That's exactly what they should have done. But instead, this
that corner might be a little crowded with picketers.
But my confused picketers. Yeah. Like, are you pro-choice? You're damn right I am. Wait, which kind? Which kind?
Define your choice.
Yeah. I'm a life chooser. Well, I want to choose my life. Wait, which kind of adult life or baby life that ain't been born? But also, I knocked up a girl once.
Who wants to go to Bennigan's? I'm confused. So anyway, this was not something that I think was designed or sold in a way that was going to work. So now you have a lot of bitter finger pointing. A lot of the rank and file Republicans in the House and the Senate are like, all right, there's 6 people fighting. All of us are going to lose our phony baloney jobs if everybody is pissed off at us because we have done nothing with the House, the Senate, and the presidency.
Sure.
Like our deep red districts, we're going to have right primary challengers because we are not doing enough to push forth the agenda that our people want.
Okay, so in this regard, now, I talked about how Reagan might have made this more of a success. Here's how Nixon would have made it more of a success.
Yeah.
Nixon would have at least begun knowing it was doomed, knowing it was all for show, and he would have put in the Machiavellian effort to bother to let everyone know this is the story we're going to push. When it fails, this is what we're going to blame. This is the footing we're going to get.
I think even the most diehard Trump supporters would say that the strength of Donald Trump as a person and his administration is his in-the-moment decision-making, and sometimes that is at the expense of his long-term decision-making.
Yeah.
And
this is that whole Trump's biggest criticizer is himself, right? There's that whole subreddit thread about, every time he makes a decision, they pull up a tweet from him previously.
Yeah, just lighting up
that exact
Obama
decision,
for doing exactly that. Well, all right, so here's the thing. The question now is exactly how much did anybody really want this in the positions of power? Did McConnell secretly want this to fail? That is a theory being floated.
I think everybody wanted it to fail.
Well, but here's...
Possibly even Trump, too.
Well, I don't think Trump, because now Donald Trump has given us 4 different plans over the last 24 hours. So he wants something to work, and he is full of ideas. First, vote for this bill. Okay? That's not going to happen. Number 2, just repeal it. So in 2015, initially what they wanted to do was just run back a repeal Obamacare bill that happened in 2015 and then put a 2 or 3 year window for them to say, okay, it's going away in 2 or 3 years. We have 2 or 3 years to come up with something new.
Right.
So that was the initial thing, and then that wound up floundering. So Trump brought that back. He's just like, hey, run that thing right on back through. Everybody vote for it that voted for it last time. Last time it made it to the president's desk, and the president vetoed it. Now I won't veto it. Look at that. Bada bing, bang, boom. I'm the Trump.
Sure.
That's not going to happen. So then he's like, all right, you want to know what? You don't want the new bill. You don't want the old, like, just stripping it out. Let's just let Obamacare die. Let's let it fail publicly, and I'll wait until Brian Brushwood is out in the streets with a picket sign because his premiums have gone up so far.
Okay, so here's the weird part, is that's not even a bad strategy for him to enact. What is shockingly dumb is to announce
Is to say it out
your
loud.
Machiavellian bad strategy to the world, right?
Just say, hey, ostracize whoever you want in your own party.
Right.
Like, blame the Democrats and say, look at what they're doing to America.
Right.
Not, hey, I'm intentionally going to punish the American public for not going along with me.
Yeah.
So now here's the latest. And again, this is evolving. But now, the idea that they have now is something that I think they should have led with, which is a law that basically would remove state boundaries for health insurance. So you would have interstate competition amongst insurance companies.
I mean, that seems eminently reasonable. And even if I don't understand anything about the healthcare business, all I understand is now you have more competition. Or at least you could sell it to me that way.
Yeah.
As now there's more competition.
But by all indications,
Too late.
McConnell is on to taxes.
Yeah.
So now the
I can't imagine anyone wants to spend any more of their political capital on this.
I mean, healthcare is legislative Vietnam. You know, everybody goes there and gets stuck. And they spend way more time there than they think, and it winds up dominating what they do. You know, there's no quick way in and out of healthcare, and that's what they thought they were going to do. Was just like, we control all three branches. We'll just kill shot that real quick and move it along.
I mean, again, do you really think they thought that, or? I mean, that's certainly the way they presented themselves, but
that's how they acted. I mean, yeah, I think that they believed that the euphoria of getting full unfettered access to the government of America would be enough of a salve between the warring factions to get it done. That was not the case. So now that's where we're at. We are at just a huge finger-pointing situation. In fact, let's go ahead. We're going to do something that we love to do here on this show, which is just read Donald Trump's Twitter. I
only just discovered that Twitter account that takes Donald Trump's tweets and formats them as press releases. It prints them out, make them look like faxed out 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper.
Oh yeah, the press releases.
So it says, to whom it may concern for public release, jobs, hashtag MAGA.
All right, so here we go. This is from 2 days ago and yesterday, the Donald Trump tweet storm. Republicans should just repeal failing Obamacare now and work on a new health care plan that will start from a clean state. Dems will join in. All right, that's again, kind of weird that you are doing this now instead of maybe going out and politicking like this, but here we go. Then when the news breaks, we were let down by all of the Democrats and a few Republicans. Most Republicans were loyal and worked really hard. We will return.
You know, that's one of those things that he could have.
It's like, are you leaving?
Now all of a sudden it's occurring to me that he could have even sold it as, you know what, ask any Democrat and they'll all tell you they wish if they had it to do over again, they would have done the ACA different.
Yes.
Well, guess what? I'm offering that chance.
Yes.
We together, all of us, are going to do it again from scratch and do it right this time. You know, it was a noble effort. But this time we're going to knock it out of the park.
Here's the problem. And Trump can do it if he wanted to, because he is this kind of person apart from the hype machine, right?
Right.
But for any other rank and file Republican, if you talk to a Democrat, you have now written your conservative primary opponent's attack ad against you.
Right.
That, Senator Brian Brushwood worked with the Obumbler.
Framble.
So here's the deal. Here we go. As I've always said, he then tweets, let Obamacare fail and then come together to do a great health care plan. Stay tuned.
Again, not even there's a friend I have that has been diagnosed with a mental problem, and his therapist said, you have this mental problem. You need to start taking medication or I will stop seeing you. And he was like, no, I'm fine. It actually makes me better. And he refused, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to a relative of this friend, and he was like, well, where's this person at? And basically it's like not low enough to where he's willing to admit he needs medicine, and so it's like, that's not even the worst strategy in the world. Again, telling everyone that's your strategy, super bad.
Yeah.
Super bad idea.
Well, hey, look, he sees that there's a ticking time limit on this. His next tweet: with only a very small majority, the Republicans in the House and the Senate need more victories next year since Dems will totally obstruct. No votes. He loves that kicker. He loves the 2-word kicker at the end. And then, the Senate must go on a 51-vote majority instead of the current 60 votes. Even parts of the full repeal need 60. 8 Dems control the Senate. Crazy. And then he goes on and on about
I'm sure you've already talked about this, but Twitter really is the perfect medium for Donald Trump, right? Because all of us, when held to only 140 characters, oftentimes have to resort to brevity that is a bit more informal than you would expect, right? In this case, it just also happens to be the word salad that comes out of his mouth constantly.
So this is today, and this is why the story is evolving. I will be having lunch at the White House today with the Republican senators concerning health care. They must keep their promise to America. And the Republicans, this is my favorite tweet. In fact, let's go ahead and put this in the running for best tweet of the presidency.
Uh-oh.
I love it. The Republicans never discuss how good their health care bill is.
Oh.
It will get even better at lunchtime. The Dems scream death as O'Care dies.
This is, I'm almost certain, a tweet from a junior class president. And it was issued at 10 a.m. about how things are going to get better by lunch for Susie, who needs to realize what a pretty smile she has.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love that he's going to make it better at lunch. And this is something that we're just going to knock out over some pastrami. Like, hey, Cruz.
And while we're at it, can we talk about the White House catering? Top notch. Top notch.
We've got the best finger sandwiches, don't we, folks? Can you pass the mustard? So anyway, private pools versus public pools. Here's I love it. I love it. And also the Dems scream death as O'Care dies is just I want to hear oh God, who's Danzig? I want to hear Danzig sings the Dems scream death as O'Care dies.
You're tempting me to try to write that song. I'm not going to do it. Healthcare.
Oh, the Dems are screaming death. Oh, as they O'Care. It is something that is continuing. But here, I want to go back to this old tweet because it gets us into our next story here, which is that
tell your children not to get pre-existing conditions.
You can stay on the roads till you're 25. Single payer. If you want to pay with me, you can't do it on the government's dime.
All right, we're dangerously
Just scream death as O'Care dies.
I could call 3 musicians. We could have the whole thing set.
Why do we always wind up singing? For 2 guys who can't fucking sing, we always wind up singing on our shows.
We were meant to be lyricists.
Exactly. Our calling was the Brill Building. Most politicians would have gone to a meeting like the one Donald Jr. attended in order to get info on an opponent. That's politics. 2 words. The 2-word kicker. He loves it. Loves it, loves it, loves it. Let's get into this. Donald Trump Jr., according to a Hill article, is miserable. You brought this up to me this morning because you witnessed a bit of a gleeful spectacle, right?
A ghoulish spectacle. It's kind of horrific. Like, my guess is you guys can imagine what it looked like when I saw that the number one item on the Reddit front page was, quote, reports Donald Trump Jr. miserable. Can't wait for presidency to end.
Well, now here, hold on. Let me read a little bit from it, and you go ahead and chime in when I'm done with the reaction. Donald Trump Jr. is reportedly miserable and can't wait for the next 4 years to end. A friend of President Trump's two adult sons told People magazine that Trump Jr. and Eric Trump never wanted this. Quote, they can't do any deals because he'll be overly scrutinized. He just goes to work every day and is miserable, a source in their circle added. Trump Jr. is facing backlash after news surfaced earlier this month that he took a meeting last year with a Russian lawyer. Now, I assume that this post was probably from our Politicsx, I'm guessing, on Reddit.
Yeah, I don't even recall, and I'm having trouble finding it right now, but it was filled with all of the hate and lack of empathy and soul-crushing vitriol that you would normally reserve for, I don't know, the most hated elements of society. But instead, this is the whole world coming around to kick somebody down,
Yeah.
And like, I kept scrolling down, like, okay, how far down until one of these has been upvoted enough that's like, man, can you imagine realizing that your dad is weak and that, this, that, and the other, and now this happens and you think you're just getting along? Man, that's got to be really rough. None of that. No empathy, no sympathy, nothing but pain and pitchforks and vitriol. And it kind of, I don't know, at some point it got not fun. It bummed me out. It really bummed me out to see everybody coming around to kick someone for the joy of kicking them.
Now, let's take a pause here and understand that Donald Trump Jr. does not make the best martyr, right?
Correct.
He
Correct.
is somebody that obviously is rich. He is an adult. He is not a child.
But he's certainly pitiable.
Well, we'll get to it.
Okay,
Let's just fill it in.
Sure.
He also is gleeful about starting firefights like the one he is taking based on this story on Reddit on his own Twitter.
Fair enough.
He is very much a puncher. Including this one from 8 hours ago. Dem senators declined to condemn Women's March for supporting terrorists. He retweets a lot of very, very pointed commentary that is obviously sympathetic to his father and destructive to his enemies. So, yes, he's not exactly, little orphan Annie that you can look down and be like, oh, look at you. The world's really put it on you.
Right.
But I think you're right.
But again, like clearly he has to be miserable. And if you ask his friends, like, how's he feeling? Is he enjoying all this? It's like, no. What human being would enjoy all of this? He's miserable. And I don't know. It's surprising given that his ideological opponents have a bit of a, I don't know, lifetime reputation for being more empathic than the other side.
Let me ask you this though: who is somebody that you personally disagree with so vehemently that you think that they are a bad person and yet you pity?
I mean,
so while we are asking, because this chat is much like the Reddit comments, fuck the rich, fuck him, he's an asshole, like good, I'm glad he's miserable. None of the Trump kids deserve any sympathy.
Let me manufacture what will pretend is a straw man and not an actual person. But imagine a magician who is fundamentally opposed to the teaching of magic tricks on the internet.
Let's say theoretically that one exists. Yeah.
Right. That person, I would think, like, they're so wrong. They're so wrong, and I can't wait for them to be off the stage and continue to, it's like, bringing more people into the tent is how arts grow and become more competitive.
Yeah.
If you love magic, you need more magicians competing against each other. It's as plain as the nose on your face. But I mean, I don't know that I would derive any joy from personal agony from whoever this person might be.
So let's say theoretically that person exists, and let's say theoretically that person has even come for scam school and criticized
personally,
it,
and
right?
Sure, made a project out of punching.
But if all of a sudden you found out that, hey, financial fortunes have kind of turned, and now he is miserable, you would not squeal in delight.
I certainly, and again, that's a fine emotion to have. what is dumb as rocks is
saying
to
it out
post
loud.
it out, yes, on the record for the world to join in a mob to kick this person while they're down. Like, I don't know. It's strange to me. I don't see what you get out of that, but that's, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. Space NML says, I do think it's harmful that people are giving so much attention to these people when there are people far more deserving of empathy that get none. Now, that's a weird argument for me because it assumes that empathy is a zero-sum game, that it is not a muscle in which we should constantly work to make stronger, but rather it is just a jar that we keep in our heart, and when it is empty forever.
Sure. And it also it implies an objective standard, or it sets yourself up as the arbiter of who does and doesn't deserve empathy or whatever. That's challenging.
It is. All right. So how do you think you would react? Would you be miserable if you were Donald Trump Jr.?
I'd be miserable if I was I'd be miserable if I was in politics. I'm slightly miserable being on this program.
This is why I have always said I think anybody who gets into politics is at least partly a sociopath.
Yep, absolutely.
Which is something that often gets me yelled at.
Well, but no. I think that's 100% true, and I will say,
I just to finish my point, I think it's because of what you do to your family. I think that what is done to your family at the expense of you running for public office is insane. And whoever you are, and you might think that they're deserving of it, or they're not deserving of it, that they're too old to be pitied or too young, whatever. At any age, you are completely crippling all of your family's the life that they were going to have.
This is going to be
putting it on pause.
This is going to be
the most charitable.
This is a weird side journey, and I swear it'll be the last time I bring it up on one of our programs.
Okay.
But in a microcosm of this is when the dude brought his son out to try to shoot down my multi-$1,000 piece of camera equipment.
Okay.
Well,
reset that.
Yeah, we've told this story. We were test flying the 4K drone. It's super expensive. We bought it used. We're trying to get good at it so we can get shots and so on. And I guess somebody it was flying over the Greenbelt area, public land, or neighborhood land, and just the neighbor, for whatever reason, got it in his head that it's appropriate to pull out his son and pull out the pellet gun and try to shoot it down. Yeah. Right. And so in that moment, I do not feel one bit bad about the moment I stood up on the railing, looked at him eye to eye, and shouted, "Hey, asshole, knock it off!" Right. But I feel terrible that I said it because he froze, and then I said it again, knock it off or I'm going to call the cops. And then they went inside sheepishly, right?
Yeah.
I do not feel one bit bad about saying that to that guy because in that moment there's a problem that had to be addressed or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I saw him at a party, I can casually say like, hey man, what was up with that? Why were we trying to vandalize multi-$1,000 camera? But I feel absolutely terrible that I did that in front of his son. You've heard, there's a reason I keep bringing it up, right? That collateral,
it's obviously
damage.
A psychological scarring.
Right. It really upset me that the situation was such. And in politics, it's like that all the time. That's all you could do is fling mud at the other guy.
And emasculate them in front of their family and,
in front of their children. Yeah.
Well, we might have something a little bit more in the Trump world. We are doing a little campaign chaos book club here on this podcast as the books that are detailing the insider off the record perspectives of the 2016 campaign continue to roll out.
You did the campaign or the Hillary campaign one, right?
Hillary campaign one. And now I think, folks, we have our successor, a new book. This was sent in by Greg. That details specifically Paul Manafort's rise and fall in the Trump campaign, is now hitting the bookshelves. Devil's Bargain is what it's called. It should be coming out in the next few weeks, but they previewed the book, and apparently there's some pretty juicy stuff here. This
Such
was
as?
A meeting. This is the straw that broke the camel's back of why Paul Manafort, now under scrutiny by the special investigator on his ties to Russia, when he was running the campaign, the reason why he was ousted was because he was apparently found it easier to communicate with Donald Trump on television. So he would just go on television and say things about the campaign that he wanted Donald Trump to hear because Donald Trump didn't want to hear it from him personally.
Oh, wow.
Which, by the way, might bring you a little bit more into the understanding of why Donald Trump says things out loud, that it might be fairly difficult to talk to him one-on-one. And he responds and respects more things that are out there in the public eye because he's always reacting to the biggest fire possible.
Again, also not a bad strategy. Like if your goal is to hit a bullseye, what you do is you just take a billion shots in all directions, and then you wait to hear which target you hit.
Yeah. So here's the straw that broke the camel's back. There was a article published about how disastrously organized the Trump campaign is. So Trump went and had himself a meeting at the Bedminster, New Jersey Golf Club. The meeting included Manafort, Governor Chris Christie, former Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and former Fox News chief Roger Ailes, and Manafort's deputy Rick Gates. When everyone was assembled, Trump reportedly shouted at Manafort, "How can anyone allow an article that says your campaign is all fucked up? You think you've got to go on TV to talk to me? You treat me like a baby."
Oh, boy.
"You treat me like a baby," Trump added, according to Green's account of the meeting, as quoted in the Daily Mail. "Am I like a baby to you?" Trump continued. "I sit there like a little baby and I watch TV and you talk to me. Am I a fucking baby, Paul?"
Yelling. That's leadership.
I mean, listen, he will not be the first or the last under pressure presidential candidate to get heated with his advisors. Like,
sure.
I'm sure in the book, in the Hillary Clinton book, there are many instances of Hillary Clinton yelling at her people around her. This is not new, right? This is why I love these books, because we get these little slices of real war room humanity in what is very often, although not in this cycle, a very cut and dry, antiseptic kind of back and forth.
Right.
But, man, that's something that is the biggest thing, and what I really, really want to get out of some of these Trump books. And so this will be our next book club thing. So when it comes out, everybody buy it and we'll all read it together. But to understand exactly how ramshackle everything was is something that I am desperate to understand more of.
Well, especially, I mean, you've read enough of the other books. Like, I don't know, if I read it, it sounds like it'll be kind of like an awesome shit show of everything that was poorly planned and so on. But I don't have much of a baseline to understand how much worse this is than the Clinton campaign, because I haven't read the Clinton book yet.
Well, Clinton didn't fire her campaign manager 3 times. And also Clinton didn't win.
That's right.
Which is the fascinating part.
Right.
So it's like, how could something that seemingly, I mean, because at the point that Manafort leaves, we're like 2 months to go to Election Day.
Right.
So he's screaming and firing his campaign manager, if this is to be believed, asking, "Am I a baby? Am I a fucking baby to you?" And firing campaign manager 2 months before he wins the White House. Again, this is the most fascinating election of all time, in my opinion.
Well, certainly. I'll say, yeah. I'll say the combination of the intrigue of the story with the fidelity of storytelling that we have, unprecedented in history. Yeah.
Well, that's what I've always said, even when the campaign was going on, is that the Trump books are going to be better than the Clinton books.
Yeah.
Because the Clinton books, all the people that are talking, even off the record, they're still going to want to get jobs, and the Clintons are still going to be a big name. The Trump campaign, then, now, forever, will be staffed by mercenaries.
Right. And not only that, even if you are a true believer, by the time you get around to talking, you're in a situation where you're so burnt you've got nothing to lose, right? I mean, this is you're a marked man.
All right, so here we go. Let's find this out. Paul Manafort quits Donald Trump's campaign. That was in August 19th, 2016. That is
August, September, October, November. Two and a half.
So No, because it's
10 weeks. 10 weeks.
Yeah, 10 weeks out from Election Day.
Yeah.
They installed Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway.
That's so insane.
So, yeah. I think it's... Hey, you want to know what? Tell you what. I'm not a baby. You're not a baby. Maybe a little bit of a baby. But you want? I'll tell you what. Maybe, we've been working really hard these last couple days.
Yeah.
Doing podcasts.
Sure.
Playing Hearthstone and doing
talking
podcasts.
Talking about Hearthstone on podcasts.
Talking about Hearthstone on podcasts. I think we deserve a bit of a break. I think we deserve a bit of a treat. So what do you say, me and you, Brian?
Yeah.
We get in the Jeep, we get a couple $20 bills together, and me and you head down to one of the local gentlemen's clubs because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the...
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance. This is an Economist YouGov poll taken from July 15th to July 18th. It is a blank congressional ballot poll, meaning you have only two choices. If you could only vote for a Republican or a Democrat with no name attached to it, which would you vote for? These are historically good indicators to how the nation is feeling
about one party or the other.
About one party or the other going into midterm elections. 1,273 registered voters were asked. Coming up first to the stage with 34%, we have the party in power, the Republicans.
Wow.
That means your headliner with 40%, they are the opposition party, and those hoping very much to take the House and Senate in 2018. Let's give it up for the Democrats. That is a +6% spread for the Democrats in that congressional blank ballot poll. This, as we have made mention many, many times, is the indicative of the idea that in 2018 we might indeed be facing
just the wave.
The wave.
Got it.
The wave might come in, sweep everybody out.
I do you really believe that? Do you really think there's a chance? Because I do not. I think that there's maybe 2 or 3 really contested seats. Everyone hates Congress. Everyone loves their congressman, right? Do you really see that much changing?
Well, historically, this is when it would happen. In the same way that you could say, yeah, listen, Hillary's got the polls, Hillary's got the numbers. Donald Trump is, his own unique problem, both for his own voting base as well as independents. But it's very, very, very hard for one party to keep the presidency 3 straight terms.
Mm-hmm.
In that same way, when there is a president that is, by the polls, as unpopular as Donald Trump, and as soon as one party has all 3, in general, that's when the wave happens. America is very uncomfortable with the idea that one party gets to run everything for very long.
Yeah.
It happened to Bush, or happened to Clinton, happened to Bush, happened to Obama, happened to every president in our lifetime, effectively, that the opposition party came sweeping in a wave as soon as they hit their apex of power.
Yeah. There's part of me that deeply loves deadlock because it means that only that which is absolutely necessary gets done.
Yeah. The do-nothing Congress. Very often hey, you are doing a great job doing nothing, Congress. Let's go ahead and get into our emails. You can email me, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, that is at theyoungamerican@gmail.com. gmail.com. Sean writes, somebody in the chat today asked about pardoning. I think you should plug the podcast, What Trump Can Teach Us About Constitutional Law. It is Roman Mars and a Columbia professor. The pardon episode is super good. Could Trump pardon by Twitter? Spoiler alert is yes.
Yeah, that's a good show. I've listened to all the episodes. I wish they were longer because they take 2 sponsor breaks in a 15-minute podcast.
Oh, Jesus.
And they also don't do fresh reads. So you get to listen to the same 2 ads every episode.
Keep getting them checks.
Taking up 1/3 of the entire podcast.
Get that money.
Also, it's the #1 podcast on iTunes.
Wait, what is this?
What Trump can teach us about con law. Roman Mars of 99% Invisible
Gotcha.
has a neighbor who happens to be a constitutional law professor, and so they get to talking over coffee. And she's like, all the stuff that we're seeing is so unprecedented that it is a good reason to
Brush up on constitutional law.
Correct, and the precedent and all that stuff. There's good stuff in there.
Man, that title is longer than the episode length, it sounds.
Yeah, a little bit.
The Truth Network writes in, do you think John Podesta will actually go to jail? What do you think the emails mean? I know this is kind of an old topic. I'd be lying to you, The Truth Network, if I knew exactly what you were talking about, but feel free to email back. I assume it's the Pizzagate stuff, but...
Man, I don't even know. I mean, he's the one who got hacked, right? So it's like...
Yeah. I mean, there was I don't even want to get into it.
Okay.
Spell it out for me, and I will do my best to look into it, but I would be lying to you if I told you that I was an expert on it. Dave writes in, I'm not sure I want to give any political party this much credit, but given how little legislation has been passed through Congress, could this be part of a long con by the Republican Party? Another year or so of minimal on the Trump checklist is being passed, but the country is running okay. The Republican Party goes to the American people and says, see, you really don't need all this government. Wouldn't you rather have more money in your pocket since the hundreds of positions are unfilled and everything is working fine? And then Paul Ryan or somebody can step up and discredit the Democrats when they go all doom and gloom and say, see, no big deal. These guys really don't know what they're talking about. Giving Trump's talk about people not losing their coverage and the infrastructure increase, I don't see this as his point of the traditional small government GOP in the House and Senate. Even if they take a bath in the midterm, is it a wave? The ability to virtually shut down parts of the government, it may be worth it. The risk that something, hurricane falls with no FEMA admin in place, happens that shows the oops would need that all the hundreds of employees in place for a large, interconnected, largely urban country to run. I think what his point is saying, specifically without the appointments to all these federal positions, can the Republicans come back and say, look, everything's fine.
Well,
we didn't need all these positions.
Specifically, he definitely indicated that this could be an actual intentional strategy. It could be a long con. And I say, Occam's razor says that don't necessarily complicate things. There is a theory that works just fine saying it actually is a hot mess and the country just happens to be wealthy enough and peaceful enough at the moment that we can afford this little side show of a soap opera.
Yeah.
But I don't see any need to paint in a Machiavellian puppet master doing all this on purpose.
Sounds like somebody who's only used to playing one-dimensional chess.
Uh-oh.
You cuck. Jerry Bonge Coach writes, listening to the hotline or the headline show from Friday, the 14th of July, it's pronounced Debbie Stabenow. This was, of course, in reference to Senator Kid Rock.
Oh, that's right. I forgot we were going to talk about this.
Debbie Stabenow is the person that he would theoretically be running against in Michigan. As somebody who has gone on record saying that playing Ba with the Ba in his Jeep is one of his happy places, how do you think about prospective Senator Rock?
Man, you should have asked me this a year ago. Around 9 months ago, I would have had a very strong opinion about the likelihood of that happening, but I no longer do. It's and to be honest, I don't even know. Sonny Bono, Al Franken, Ronald Reagan. Many people think
he wouldn't be the craziest person to run for it, and you know what? We had that House special election in.
Governor Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, I mean, the Democrats just ran a folk singer against a dude in what, North Dakota, South Dakota? I forget which Dakota. But he was the 45 caliber man. He sings country songs. So what's the difference with Kid Rock?
Well, and plus also, there's a place for a narrative where Kid Rock could say like, "Hey, man, I hire experts to give me opinions on these things, and I will vote with the people. It's not rocket science. You tell me, people, what you want, and I vote that way. That's my job."
Here's what I said on the headline show. I'll say it again here. If he runs, it is going to be incumbent upon anybody. And listen, it's not going to take long for the Democrats to start running celebrities too.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people are talking just as much about The Rock and Mark Zuckerberg as they are Cory Booker or Kamala Harris,
right?
To run for president. The celebrity genie is out of the bottle, and we are going to see how far this can take us. But if you are running against a celebrity, you need to force them to run as a politician and not a celebrity.
Right.
What Kid Rock is doing, if this is serious, is saying, you want to know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tour, probably throughout Michigan, where I'm going to be running. I'm going to run my campaign, and just like politicians have released books forever while they're on the campaign trail,
right?
I'm going to release songs. And so he released 2 songs when he put up the website. He says it's not going to be an album. I'm not going to tour behind an album. Periodically, I'm going to release songs. And if I were him, what I would say is pick out the 2 or 3 issues that Republican voters in Michigan care about the most.
And write songs about them.
Yeah. And make little pointed things like to your opponent, well, you can sit there in your pantsuit and frown, and like now everybody,
with your brown hair hanging down.
Yeah.
Not all of us graduated from Ithaca College. Like all these specifics.
But yeah, and now let that do what celebrities do best.
Right.
Where get free publicity and make everybody talk. Is the Kid Rock song good or bad? Like, is it across the line for him to be doing that?
Right.
The senator now is forced to talk about the song and not the issues that she wants to talk about.
Right.
If you are running against Kid Rock, you have to run against Robert Ritchie.
If you want to run against Kid Rock, you better get a guitar.
No, don't get a guitar. Debbie Stabenow now, well, that's a real hell of a song, Kid Rock.
D, 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 G, G, G.
The wheels on the bus go. So there we go. Debbie Stabenow. Brian, was there anything else that we wanted to get to?
No, I think we nailed it. I think we solved all the problems.
We did. We got it. So everybody, where can you find Brian Brushwood on the internet?
Yeah, dude. Head on over to youtube.com/modernrogue or hit up the Patreon at patreon.com/modernrogue.
Yeah, man. Rocking and rolling there. If you would like to support this show, it is patreon.com/JURY. Of course, Action News Game. Let me go ahead and check that real quick just to see where we are at. We are releasing new news cards each time we get to a certain level. We are now 4 backers away.
Nice.
4 backers away from unlocking the Patty Hearst news card. Brian, what do you know of the Patty Hearst story?
Bank robbery, right? Fell in with the cult. Cult needed money, started robbing banks.
Kidnapped on campus at Berkeley.
Yeah.
19 years old. Winds up with the Siboney's Liberation Army.
Siboney's
Lebanese Liberation. Yeah. This SYMBOINESE.
Okay, so it's not the Sibian Liberation Army.
Calm down, Howie. We are so she's kidnapped, right? Falls in with them, Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Over a period of 19 months, goes from being kidnapped on campus to being a part of their gang, participating in bank robberies, building explosives that they were going to use. is eventually arrested by the police and lists her occupation as urban guerrilla, weighed like 87 pounds.
Oh, my God.
And wound up getting a full pardon eventually for her crimes. But one of the most fascinating stories in history, that is the, of course, Patty Hearst, an heiress to the Hearst fortune. So go ahead and check it out. This has been my favorite part of plugging this Kickstarter, has been talking about all the news stories that we researched for it.
Well, we were talking about that, how there's almost there's a kind of a today I learned aspect to the whole game that's really fun.
And even stories that you know about, like just like what you just said. Like, yeah, she fell in with a cult and, she was kidnapped, right?
Yeah.
And she was 19 years old. And over a year, how much of it was Stockholm Syndrome? How much of it was part of that just being a way to save the family's name?
I mean, imagine if she got caught 30 years later, grizzled and in her mid-50s with a knife to somebody's throat. You're like, Stockholm Syndrome.
Oh, geez.
Real bad.
Oh.
Real bad.
So here's the deal. Go ahead on over there and check that out. Once we do that, we got a bunch of really rad ones coming up, including the Tiananmen Square protest, the Million Man March protest, and this was one of the most impactful days of my young life. The day that the Supreme Court ended the 2000 election.
Oh, wow.
It was really, there were two moments that made me a fan of politics forever. One was the Monica Lewinsky scandal and the Ken Starr investigation. But what really made me love politics was watching with my front row seat the insanity of the Florida recount.
Literal front row, yeah.
That eventually wound up being resolved in the Supreme Court. So tell your friends, tell your friends, tell your friends. Go ahead on over to actionnewsgame.com. Make sure you back this Kickstarter. If you want to email us, it is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Music has been provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere you can go. And we'll see you next time on the Politics show on the TIB network. Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program. There we go. Politics. It's a great time for us all. Oh, politics. Somebody had to make the call.